Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's October the 14th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And I'm struggling a little bit with my throat. Um, I got a little bit of a head cold, so you have to bear with me. My throat gets a little itchy at times as well too, so I may have to pause here occasionally. I apologize, but you'll just have to bear with me. Hopefully, I'll get through this pretty quick. But anyway, let's talk about the chart today. Very similar to yesterday. We didn't get quite the huge sell off that we got yesterday afternoon, but we still traded up and at some point found a high, and we've been selling off ever since. In the end, it looks like just a trading range. Early on this morning, I was looking at a two-tiered range possibly with this channel working up, and the channel is obviously valid. We got a break. We never have worked for a new high yet, but will we do that? I don't know. But we got a nice rebound. Took some of the sell off from yesterday back. Not quite all of it. We took a good bit of it back. Actually, we took most of the afternoon sell off back, which this is where I'd say it really started selling off and just the bottom dropped out of it. Wish I'd have still been trading yesterday. Unfortunately, I wasn't. Somebody made a comment on the video too about, this kind of sell off is the one you just hang on to instead of trying to re enter it. And that is exactly right. That's a great comment. And I agree. If you can get in on something moving like this, just right, hang on as long as you can. And if you start to get a big rally like this, really what you want to look for is it's going to get back above the EMA first, and like here, and then it makes one more move. And so once you got above the EMA, of course you would have, if you'd have ridden this out, you would have closed almost on the low. You basically closed with just a few, maybe a point off the very low of the day. Actually, it closed yeah, I guess it closed on the green bar there. I don't want to back out too much yet, but maybe closed within a point of the very low. And that's generally what will happen on huge sell-off days or huge rally days. You close almost on the high or the low of the day. And so, if you want to be real aggressive, just hang on to, even if it's just one run. I mean, this was 40 points from this high to this low. So if you just get one contract and can hang on to that, I mean, you've made a mint. And you won't get a lot of days like that. But you won't get a lot of days like we've had recently, period. And they just keep coming. So uh, times are a little different right now. And look at the number of bars in this day. I mean, it's just, I've got to back out to where you can't even hardly make heads or tails of the bars. It almost looks like a consistent line just to see them all. I mean, I can't remember how long it's been since I had to back out like that to see the whole day. So lots of volatility, lots of movement. Uh, I posted something on one of the midday charts today that's probably good advice for everybody, so I'll say it here as well. Stay with the price action. Even though it gets a little crazy at times, as you can see, the price action is still right. These trends channels, everything is still working like it should. And the only difference here is you didn't get a new high after the break of this channel moving up right here. You didn't get the new high, but that's because there's a bigger pattern in the channel in play, and there's not enough momentum to get back up there, so we keep working down. And so it's real important that you just follow the price action. But for the most part, on all these little channels, you'll see the break and a move to a new extreme, and then we start moving in the other direction. You notice I've drawn all these little short-term channels, and just about every one of them you get a break, a retest with a new high, or at least a retest attempt. It may not. The bigger pattern may come into play each time. Like right here, we got a break, and it tried to make a new high, but it couldn't because the short term or this bigger channel here, it touched it and couldn't go above, and it sold off again. So I guess again, what I'm trying to say is don't get fooled by a lot of the. Let me just show you one to give you an example. Let's see if we can see one where the prices flip flop multiple times. Don't get fooled by that. Just stay with the price action. Right in here is a good example. Prices kept looking like they were going to fail to the upside and turn down. But if you see this trend line working up and the bigger trend line underneath here, you understand why prices are going higher. Just stay with that and wait on a good setup to get on with that. And don't pay too much about the long traps, and because what happens is you just get whipsawed to both, going both ways. So you got to really, you can't. I guess what I'm saying is traps, counter trend traps, and traps are not as um, they're not as reliable lately. I want to be careful how I say that because you're still looking for the traps. I mean, a couple of these are I've circled them because they're traps, but you want to be careful that you don't take traps that look like they're counter trend and or get would put you in counter trend, in other words, because there's a lot of them that set up like right here. There was a nice trap that looks like it's a long trap, but all it did was trap you to the low side, and if you just stayed with the trend, then you're good to go. So that's a good example of one there. Look at this. You've coming off the high of a possible range. First entry, pull back, you get a second entry long there, but it fails and turns down, and normally you'd want to go short there. But if you know that there's a trend channel right there, just skip that trade and wait to get long. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to make is be real careful. Here's another one. You're working down first entry long, pull back second entry long. So you get a failed second entry long and you can go short right there. But if you're paying attention, you know that this is a support and resistance line and you may bounce off of it. And then you got the upper trend line coming up through here that's just right there. It might have been enough. I don't think it was enough to get a good trade. So, but don't get tricked into going counter trend because that's kind of what they're doing, and then they whip it and look at it go. So that's my point: is don't get tricked into thinking you found a trap to get on counter trend. Just follow the price action and follow the rules, and you'll come out okay. I hope that makes sense to you. But anyway, let me back out one more time and just show you the big picture. You can see the channel working up. It's a trading range day, still is. And there's three tiers to it. Early on, it was just two tiered, and then we broke higher. And guess what? All three of those levels are perfect measured moves, equal distance. Here's the first one. You can see the size of that one. And there's the second one, and you can see it's a perfect measured move. And then there's the third one, pretty much perfect. It went a couple of ticks higher, but it just gets you to what it does. It may not give you the exact high or low, but it gets you to a target and it gets you really close. And as you notice where each of these lines are, it turns out those turn out to be the support and resistance, kind of the middle between the support. When it's above it, it's kind of acting as support, and when it's below it, it's acting as resistance. Same thing right here. It's acting as resistance, and it gets above, and it's kind of acting as support. And so you got it in the right place, and they're all equal distance. So you got that going on, but then you got the two-tiered channel working up, and there's multiple smaller term trend lines and trend channels within that working both ways. And if you draw them, they keep you on the right side. And then finally we sold off. And this is really a spike down, and it goes into this channel. It's a little different looking spiking channel, but that's what I see. And you can see this was holding prices real nicely. Every time we touched, it turned. We overshot it a little bit there, and now we're going up ever since. So, but there's still a shorter term one in there that's working down that you can use, and you get to break. And it tried to make a new low, and it couldn't. Tried there, and look at that bounce. And that's what's so tough about days like this is that you got to be careful, because when the move is over, you can move out of you can move in the other direction, just like when this move up was over, it just really rocketed down, and then you've had some huge moves down, and then now that we're going up, you're getting huge moves up, and it's just very, very volatile. So be very careful. Follow the price action. Draw your trend lines. There's a trade somewhere in here that somebody sent me earlier. Let me look at. I'm gonna pause it. Okay. Trader asked me about this trade right here. I believe this is it. Yep. You got this channel working down, and what this trader did was he went long. Get a little bit bigger. He went long right here. Now his chart doesn't look as bearish as mine. Looking at my chart, you'd probably think, no way I'm going long right there. But on his chart, he's got this double bottom, and this bar is bullish. Um, just glancing back at his chart, yep. He's got that double bottom, but instead of being bearish bar here with a stem, his has the stem and it closes on its very high, and there's no gap right in there either. And so to him, he thought, and he actually has this line further up, like right in here. And so to him, it looks like a bounce off the trend line. Actually, he has a little bit lower than that because the double bottom is like right there at it. So that's where he had his trend line. And so this looked really bullish on his chart. And he asked me, how, what could he have done to maybe know not to go long there yet? Well, looking at his bar, it didn't quite close on its high, so there is a one tick. It's not a perfect reversal bar. It is a double bottom. There are some stems down there. But if he'd had his chart drawn properly, or at least the way I got mine, he wouldn't have been to the bar. He would have still been away from the trend line. And let me back out, and you can just see that, I kind of drew mine like I usually do. I originally had mine right there, like so. I drew it off that first bottom there, and I had it drawn right through those closes right there. And it doesn't quite get it now. Yeah, it does. And even if and I think I moved it up when it didn't touch right there. I just moved it up like so, and that turned out to be really close. But anyway, the point being that where he had his line, it wasn't to it yet. And so I could see why he might get tricked. But notice the break. That was the first break and the first attempt to go lower. And a lot of times you get two legs down to a new low, and you didn't have a new low there yet, and you weren't down to the trend line. So if you had at least drawn this, you might have noticed that that's the first break, and we didn't quite get a new low. But on some days, if his trend line would have been right, that would have been enough reason to think, well, we're not going to get a new low because it's not going to get through there. But I would have still probably waited on another bar. And notice, I didn't even mark this one. I didn't like this one either because it's not a very good setup bar. So anyway, that would be the one thing. Make sure you draw these short-term trend lines. Wait on the break and wait till you get a new low, or you've got a confirmed trend going in the other way on a shorter term, and you don't have that yet. You might have drawn a little trend line right up through there, but you would have seen instantly that it wasn't any good because you never got a confirmation of it. We went lower, and so once you go lower, your confirmation is no good. So that would be the only thing that I could say right there on looking at his chart. Looking at mine, it's pretty obvious you don't want to go long there. But looking at his, it wasn't quite so obvious. So make sure you draw these short-term trend lines because look, here's the one going up. You get the break, two legs to a new high. Look at this one. You're going up. You really had a break here at a new high, but when you got this triple bottom, that's your new low, and you tested it twice more. That should be actually, these two should be blue. I forgot to change them. I've done that a few times lately. It's easier for me just to put all the circles on there and then go back and change the colors. And for whatever reason lately, I'm forgetting to change some of them. There's so many of them. You can't see it all on one chart, and this one was supposed to be green. So let's do that. But notice this one. You had a break here to move to a new high, but you had a reason to go long there. And this was during the overnight. Sometimes you'll get those overshoots, and they don't really count, and you might just keep going and going and going. So there's some reasons to like this long here. But now you got a break, and it's right at the opening. So and you move to a new high, and then it sells off. And look at that sell-off. And there's only a couple of ways to get into it, and then there's no way to safely get in that. And unless you want to gamble. And as soon as you gamble, instead of running way down here, it'll reverse and go the other way, and you'll get stopped out, and you'll say, why did I do that? So that's what don't waste your time studying that, because there's no way to get in that really. You might have thought about adding on here since you weren't back to the midline, and since it's coming off the trend line. So you might have thought about entering right there, and I'll go ahead and mark that one green. But past, and actually I'm going to put two of them green because there's one other place where you might consider entering, and that's right here. It's like a little, it traded through the midline and pulled back and then went lower. So it's like a breakout pullback. But look how far away you are from the EMA. I mean, how many times do you see that happen and it bounces? So I still think it's very, very aggressive. Um, so I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna put green on there, and so we talk about it. But anyway, let's go talk about our trades. But the gist of it is to draw those short-term trend lines. And this one was real tempting. I almost took this one because I didn't think we were down to the trend line, and I was looking for prices to go down there. And at that point, I had this a little bit lower right across those closes. So there's a lot of room there. But there's not much room from here to here, and there's a chance it bounces there, even if it's still coming down here. So there's some different things to consider there. And you don't want to be too aggressive because you can get burned. So let's talk about the trades. When I came in, we were in this big move up right here. Um, it's tempting to go long right here, and it would have worked, but you just can't take that trade after that big a move up, especially right into this high right here, because it's probably coming back, and it'll probably give you a better entry. And then look what happens. You come back, pull back, first entry, pull back, and there's a second entry long there. It's not a very good signal bar, but there's a little double bottom there, and you go a one tick lower, and it turns up, and I kind of went back and forth whether or not to make this one green, but what I liked about it was since you had a little bit of stem, let it break higher and use a limit order, and you would have gotten filled a tick or two back into that bar, and then it shoots on up. You've got this swing high is higher than that swing high. And so it's a new swing high, even though it's not higher than that one, it is higher than this one, so it's a new swing high. So you're pulling back, there's a first entry, you pull back, there's a second entry, it bounces right off that midline. Um, Again, this is right at the open, so you really haven't had a close outside until after the open. And so there's a good chance there's a second entry long, there's a triple bottom there. There's some reasons to think that this thing's at least going to test this, and this turns out to be a great trade, and it goes. And once it starts going higher, look for some kind of measured leg to see where it might be going. And you really may not have had this midline in there yet, so it might have been a little bit harder to find that, to use that for this right here, because you probably would have had your highs up here at that point. And so you're not going to be able to use that. But hopefully you saw this line right here and used it for your measured leg. And that would have got you right into here someplace at that point. And that's pretty much where it turned back before it pushed higher again. But that was because I didn't have the line quite right and I had to adjust it later. So keep that in mind. And then it pulls back right here. You get a first entry, pull back, and there's a second entry long right there. And there's enough room to get out there. This one, I believe I meant to make that one green because that's, looking at it now, um, even after the fact, it still looks aggressive. So, but it went lower is what I liked about it. It did that first here, and it ended up closing as a doji, but then it went lower again and came back and it almost closed on this high. So that's a second entry there, and it bounced right off the EMA. And this was a fairly bearish, bullish move up. So you figure you're going to test that high again. So that's what I liked about it. And there's enough room to get out. And it went a little bit higher. And then it makes a first entry and it pulls back. Or it actually makes the high, pulls back, goes up. And then it pulls back again and goes up. And then turns down. So I like this one. It's a little bit. It's like a breakout pullback because look at all that overlap right there, and it breaks out and then it turns back and then turns down. It's a little aggressive, but I liked it because it's a big bearish bar and it's a breakout pullback short, and you're looking for a reversal anyway. So I like that one to the short side. It didn't tick higher here before it turned down, although that is a leg and a correction and then a second leg. And so this is like a failed second entry long here, even though it didn't break higher either time. It's still if you went to a little bit smaller chart, it's a failed second entry long. And so I kind of like going short right there. It's right off the trend line. You got your first two swings. That confirms it, turns down. Um, Comes back again. We talked about these two already. It's right off the trend line. And again, that's like a little uh, breakout and a pullback, and it goes lower. And you could even treat this as one leg, and then this was the second leg down, and there's two legs in the first leg and just one in that one. So it's like a failed second entry long on a bigger picture. And then this is like a little retest. You broke below the midline, comes back to retest it and turns back down. This is really getting aggressive here because it's so far away from the EMA, and it's not very often you get that far away from the EMA that long. It did this particular time, but that's the reason I really didn't like that trade right there, because that was really tempting to go short right there. But the fact that we'd been away from the EMA that long, I really thought we'd go up and make a second leg and then turn down, but it just didn't happen. We didn't go very high. This was really bearish, so that's something to consider. But when you move that far, we're way past a correction, and you can see that's why you had a little stronger correction here before you tried to make another retest there. And plus, you did get your break and new low, so you got enough reason for the whole thing to reverse now. And now you got a channel working up. I never really saw a setup I liked until here. It's just kind of a choppy bounce, and that's a pullback first entry, and then it pulls back, and you get your second entry here, and it broke lower first and went up and almost closed on its high. I like just going long right there. I believe you would have gotten filled on this with a limit order or a tick or so back if you tried. And then that was a quick move to a new high. Then it pulls back, and you don't want to go long there, but when it pulls back and traps everybody on that little break there and then turns back up and goes out, I think it's good to go long again, and you're probably going to get another leg up, at least back up to this line, because you haven't touched it yet. And so then it starts working down. There's a second entry right there, not very good. There just wasn't a way to get in this one either, coming down. Not a good chance until right here. That's your first break, and we already talked about this trade, and you weren't down here to the trend line, which I had it right off that low at that point. And you can see how it fits in there real nicely. So I like that one. There was enough room. You actually had to ride some of this out, I think. You didn't quite get out, and you had to kind of ride that out. So you might have gotten shaken out of that one. But I liked it all the same. And I didn't like entering here as much because you're too close then. Still would have worked, but I think if you didn't enter here, you had to skip that one, especially after this one bounced already. And then it just kind of whipping back and forth. This is kind of no man's land where you got to follow the price action. So you're looking for something to go up. You just got to wait on the right setup. And it was real tempting to go long here above, but here's your signal bar. You don't want to go long above that one. Notice the new high. You pull back, first entry, pull back. There is a second entry long, but it's such a bearish looking bar. And then this one breaks higher and it closes back, and you got a little stem. So I just didn't think you could enter there. But when it ticked lower and then turned back up, now you've tried to go lower a couple of times, and you've got that trap, and you've also got a trend line working up through there. Notice that trend line. It's very clear working up through there, and it turns up and goes right out the upside. So I like going long there. And that third touch, notice your first two swings, and I had it drawn more across those closes like so. And you test it again. Quick, easy scalp. And it was tempting to go long here, but you got a new high. It's a first entry, so just wait and see if you'll get a second entry, because it could turn down and break the trend line. And it does turn down, and it goes out the bottom and turns and goes right out the top. You may have waited on this bar, because lately, like I said, it may break higher and then close back down in here. Uh, but I think with that trap there, you're okay just to have a stop right there and go long if you wanted to, or let it break and see if you could get a limit order. But we've had a bunch of these where if you didn't jump in, if you waited on a limit order, you didn't get filled. This one you would have it. It would have come back. You could have gotten filled 3 ticks into that bar, and then it took off real quick. But I'll warn you, you don't want to be so conservative that you mess yourself up and miss out on really good trades because once these things take off, you don't want to chase them. And I've shown you several of these where you just have to watch it keep going, and you don't want to be chasing them. So you got to do what you got to do. So don't get too conservative and try to use limit orders too often, and then you get a really nice. And I don't think you want to once this broke higher and pulled back there. This is a new low, and there's a first entry and there's a failed second entry. But I don't think you want to go long right there. It's a possibility. We'll mark it in green. It's a trap, but look how close it is this high, and it's not very far from where you've had some resistance across here. I think it's just a little bit risky, but we'll mark it in green. And notice it took off, it turned, and you definitely don't want to be entering up here, even though it would have worked. And then you start working down. You got your break here, and notice that gap right there. That usually tells you got your a line in the right place, and it makes a new low, and it gives you a nice bullish bar. But guess what? It's not down here, and so if you did go long there, when this thing kept jerking around and didn't go anywhere, and um, I would have taken what this thing would give me, a tick or so, especially when this one traded up and then starts closing, trickling back down right before the close again. Uh, but the clue that you may not want to go long there is it's right into that midline and you haven't touched the trend line yet. I mean, we've seen trades right here that would go higher from here, and it does look like a pretty good setup. It's a second entry. You did have your break. I guess it's always possible that that's not your trend line and that that's your trend line as well. Let me just play with that a minute. Well, there's probably two. There's one and you low, and then you get this one. But if you draw it that way, which I didn't copy this one and move it over, but even if you it probably fits right there, and it does. But looking at it after the fact, I believe this to be your channel, and this was the first close outside in your new low, and so there's another reason. I don't know why I didn't come back and relook at that. I just wasn't. I think I was. I just didn't like going long there because we weren't back, and I didn't redraw it. I had enough reasons not to. But if you draw it properly like that, then you get your break here and your new low, and then you're ready to go. So it all fits together, and that's what I'm saying. If just play around with your trend lines and your trend channels and make sure you're always drawing these short-term ones. I mean, I was being lazy there, and if I'd have drawn that, you even got additional reasons to wait. But especially if you don't have as much experience watching it. I don't know why, but generally I can figure out. I don't always get it right, but I just have these hunches that says don't go long yet, or hey, you better just jump in on this one. And it's amazing how many times I'm right. And again, I don't get it right like that every time, but generally if I have a hunch, I go with it. And of course it's following the rules too, but I trust that inner voice that speaks to me. And you may not, it may sound like hocus pocus wacko stuff, but if you do this long enough, you'll know what I'm talking about, because I know other traders talk about it too. It's just experience. I think it sounds, to somebody that doesn't have that experience, it may sound a little like, hey, you're just rolling the dice there, but I promise you there's something to it. And as you get experience, you'll say, yeah, I know what Mack was talking about when he said that now, because you just get this hunch, and it's like a little voice that speaks to you, and you say, hey, I better take this trade, or I better skip this trade. And it's amazing how often I'm right. So anyway, you get a great setup here. You look at that double bottom, those matching lows, and it even matches over here. And you get that little one tick, and it reverses right off the trend line and closes on its high. Go long right there. And that's generally going to get you a huge move, and look at it go. and it does. It gets you a huge move. Any runners are safe, and you ride this thing, and this is where you exit when it gets to this other line. You might consider exiting here, uh, but generally when it's come from one side back to the other, if it's going to keep going, it's going to the other side. So you might consider riding this out and riding it all the way to here. And this is where I would have exited a tick or two before it touched that line. And you know that line is right, because look what it does every time prices touch it. It rejects prices. There's no doubt that there's something going on up that line right there. And if you cannot see that, you got a lot of work to do. But anyway, it touches the upside, and then where do you figure it's going? Back to the other side. Notice I don't draw any shorts, though, because you might get one like this that traps you and runs your stop before it goes to the other side. So don't counter trend trade, not till you get a break and attempt to get a new high, and then still you probably want to wait on a confirmed trend to the other side. Notice the reason I liked taking these, because there's a trap here, one, and secondly, because you got a trend line working down through here, and it's coming off this high. I figured it was coming back to here, and I figured it was coming back to this midline at least. I really thought we were going to go all the way, but you can see that didn't happen. We got a little two-legged curve. There's one leg, pull back two leg, and there's a couple legs in each one of those legs, and that's pretty common. So, but notice I didn't take any shorts until I knew we were going lower here. We had a confirmed trend line, and even then, I really thought about making one of these green, but I think you got to stay with us, and I'll explain that. But notice the new high, and you're kind of stuck here. And the reason I made this one green, notice the new low, and then you tested it twice. It's that double test rule, and it bounces right off the EMA, kind of off the midline, and goes higher. So I think you can go long right there if you want to be aggressive. You got room to get out before you get back to this line and these highs, and it actually goes a little further. But it's still aggressive because what you're expecting is that prices are probably coming to at least here. And so this is getting a little more aggressive. So you got to wait on a trap of some kind. And I didn't like it until you had this little triple bottom there. And it's like the double test rule again. This is your low when you tested it twice and it reverses. And so if you wanted to, you could go long there if you want to be aggressive. And then you're working down. You got a first entry long, pull back. That's a second entry long. Look how we went right through the EMA. Everything's back. You can't even get back to the EMA. It turns down right off that trend line. So there's a trap right there. So I liked that one. I wasn't really expecting this next trap here, but it did set up. And this is like notice there's some little overlap and a little double bottom. This was like a breakout pullback. Notice how it closed right inside that line. I mean, this was a real simple line to find. And you're looking for it to come here. You end up getting more than that out of this one, but I was looking for it to at least come to this midline. And it keeps coming, and then it reverses. There's a little trap here, so you might have considered going long here. Notice the new low, first entry, pull back. Actually, there's a second entry there, and then this is like a correction. And there's like all these matching lows, and it breaks below, but it's a first entry counting off this. If you went to a smaller chart, there's a second entry, and it does set up the trend line, but I think it was better to wait and see if you got a second entry, a real second entry, and maybe even one count from this side, and you get that right here. And look at that. It was tempting to go long here, but when it traded back down and went below and then went back up and closed on its very high, you can go long right there because you're probably headed to the other side. And that's exactly where it goes. It doesn't quite get there the way I have it drawn, and I feel real confident in the way that channel's drawn. We just didn't get there, and because really this is where we're headed to, and so and you had no retest of this one, so you're looking for a reason to get short. It was tempting to go short right there, but it's right into that support line, and notice how everything's closing above it. So I don't like that one. Wait and see if you get the failed second entry long and then go short. And it was really kind of tempting to go long right there, to be honest. Real tempting. But if you're looking at this, there's no break and new low yet. So that's what would keep you out of that. Nothing else. But look how all they did was trap people to the long side and take it down. And so the whole idea behind that is to trap you. to fool you. And that's why I'm saying this is another one of those spots where when it starts whipping back and forth both directions, forget about what it's doing and follow the price action and just be patient. And if you did get trapped there, I mean, it's hard to get long into that right there because there's no way you can get under there with 2 points. So you're probably got your stop way back here, and that's not very good because you might get stopped out and it still go higher. So you just kind of got to sit on that one. As beautiful as that bar looks right there, and I'm just going to tell you, I wanted to go along there so bad I couldn't stand it, and I didn't, and thank goodness I didn't because then it turns down. And now you got a failed second entry long, and you're looking for a new low anyway, and so you get your chance to go short. That's not the perfect signal bar, but it is a trap. And that's the perfect signal bar, but it's so big you don't really want to go long short right there. So what I would have done if you waited for this bar is wait on the break, drop a limit order about halfway in here, and looks like you could have gotten filled up back up to the lows here. And you figure it's going to be a breakout pullback there anyway, and then try to ride this back down. But I don't think you can go short right there either. You know it's probably coming down to here. Um, but again, that's such a big bar. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to circle it in green because it gives you a chance to let it break and drop a limit order about halfway in, and it comes back and fills you, and then it drops right where you think it's going to go. So if you entered that way, there's no reason, because that's your break and your two legs down to a new low. And when you see a measured leg here and it's exactly a measured leg down to the new low, that's a good sign. Doesn't mean that you're going to get there, but that's a good sign that you're probably going to get that measured leg, and that's your target. When you see multiple things that get you to the same place like that, that's what I call confluence, and those are, I mean, if you draw a measured leg here and then you use a measured leg and it puts you right to a trend line that you figure that you're expecting prices to go to anyway, that's a good sign. So that's something I probably have never talked about before, but it just hadn't dawned on me until I saw it right there. So those are things that I think about when I'm watching this price. When it moves down there, I say, you know what, let's do them. I'm always doing my measured legs. Even if you don't see it on here, I do it on just about every one of them. You draw that down and say, hey, I'm waiting on prices to go right there. And guess what? That's right to where the trend line basically is sitting. So, there's a good chance prices are headed to right there. And that's exactly where they go to. They actually didn't quite get to my trend line where I had it drawn, and they missed it by a tick, and they actually overshot the measured move. So that's, when you see that kind of stuff, pay attention to it. And then just notice going back up, there's your first measured move. And so you're looking for prices to go somewhere near that on this ledge line. They actually go a couple of ticks higher, and then you draw your trend line. And notice this, you get your break, you draw this little channel. I drew it right off those closes right there, and it fits on the top, and you get your break now, a couple of legs up to a new high, it sails off, comes back, you draw those two lines right there. Originally I probably had them a little bit lower, and it comes back and tests them, and it can't make another high, and it turns down right there. I mean, it's right off that, confirmed that trend line. It's not a beautiful signal bar, so you probably want to use a limit order, and look, it comes back, and it would have filled it a tick or so back into that bar, and then, oops, and then it rockets off to the downside. You could have actually waited and gone short right there. If it would have broke higher, I would have probably liked to add on there even. But you could have waited for that bar. It's like a little breakout pullback, and it was like another test. Notice you pull down, you come back and test that, and then you turn back down. So it's like another test of that level right there, and it held. So you could have entered either place there, really. I'm just going to cover that whole, yeah, that whole thing right there. Shoot. There we go. All right, there we go. And this thing rockets on down, and guess what? You think it's going to bounce here, and it goes right on through, comes back, tests it, and heads lower again. So once it went through there, your next target is this line down here. And notice it went a couple of ticks further, and it bounces. So it was really kind of tempting to add on there, but and that's your first break, and you move to a new low, and then it's going this way. And notice what happens here. This is another good example. You got this channel working up. You get a break right here. It tries to retest it, and it can't get above that trend line. So that's the reason it doesn't make a new high, and then it turns and goes. So you can go short right there. Goes, and where does it go? Straight to that midline. It gets below it, tries to go back, and then you get a second entry opportunity right there, a big bearish bar. There's room to get out before you get here. So I liked entering there. I didn't like entering this one. It's too close to the low. Would have worked, but I think it was too risky. And there's even a chance to enter here, but again, you're getting all this overlap. You're looking for prices to come down here, so there's reasons to enter there, but I think you got to wait on the little breakout pullback, and you really just never get a break lower there that goes up. And of course, this is right off the trend line, so maybe, aggressive trader. It's too late in the day, and I was already done by that time, so I wouldn't be dare risk a trade like that. But there's reasons to go short right there. And you're looking for prices to come down here before they bounce anyway. And look what happens. They come down here, they overshoot it, and that's just because it's been such a heavy sell-off. People probably looking for the same thing that happened yesterday to happen again. And that was the last trade I marked. That's into the 220, getting close to 230. And you can just see it. If you look at the big picture, though, you got this channel, and all you got to do is follow that price action. And if you're not so sure when it's going to reverse or when it's going to end, draw your short-term ones. They're there. And they tell you. I don't have this one drawn, but look at this short-term one right there, working up through there. You can see that prices fit that really well. You get a break, move to a new high. It's a really big move, and then it also gives you the first break of this one, so then it starts trying to work lower for a retest. And if you weren't sure when it was ready to work lower, if you drew this, you got to break in the new high, and so then it's going lower. So now you say, okay, we must be done with the move to the upside. I need to start looking for shorts. So it's all there. You just have to not get tricked and not get fooled and follow the rules. Doesn't mean that you still won't get tricked or fooled, but it reduces the odds. So again, if you back out and just look at the bigger picture for the day, we stayed within that range all day, and guess where we closed? Right back in the middle of that range. So we're actually going to close up for today because this was the open down here, and so we're going to end up closing up for the day, even though it's not nearly as high as the market went today. So but anyway, it was 42 minutes worth. This is a long chart lesson today, but there was good stuff there, so hopefully somebody learned something today. My throat's bothering me, so I'm going to wrap it up, and hopefully I can get over this head cold here in a day or so and get back to normal. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.